welcome back to another edition of the On the Board Sports Podcast. I am your host, Will Chiarucci, aka Will C, coming to you from Long Island, New York on Monday, July 3rd, 2023, right before our nation's Independence Day. America, baby. Gotta say this though, got a lot of things going on. Never thought I'd say that right now with where the sports world is right now. New York baseball kind of making a comeback to that extent. We'll get into everything going on New York baseball related. We'll get into the Josh Bailey trade in a little bit. But first, we got to talk about the hockey news right now, the team that I root for, New York Islanders. Okay? It went out the other night, July 1st. I thought that we probably wouldn't be hearing anything regarding news regarding Engvall, Pierre Engvall, Scott Mayfield, Semyon Varlamov. The past couple of off seasons, we've been hearing the free agent additions or the re-signings of certain players on September 1st. And where there was smoke regarding some news, like, for example, Artemi Panarin back in 2019, or you'll get Nazem Kadri last year, for that matter, it was all fake news. It was rumors, there was something to it, but it was really fake news at that point in time. And when we see it, when we looked at it, we said, you know what, what's going to make this offseason any different than the other two off seasons that came and went? And well, we got four guys back. And I say we like I play for the team, but I'm paying for my season ticket in a way, and I'm probably going to go away to watch the boys on the road a couple times this coming season, like I always do for the past couple of years. But regardless, right now, this team's in a win now mode. Okay, people want to talk about the Scott Mayfield, and we'll get into the contracts right now. Scott Mayfield making a 7-year deal for $3.5 million or something along those lines. The term, I could do without the term as a fan. I don't like ever counting pennies, for that matter, or counting other people's wallets per se. But when we look at this deal from a term perspective, it's, what are we doing? But that's how you keep the number low, and I understand it. You look at Pierre Engvall, same thing. The term, again, for a guy that came in halfway through and he performed really 3 months in and was kind of a difference maker for this team and for this second line for the Islanders, with Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri finding their way as well. It just goes to show you where this team is right now. They are in a win-now mode. Semyon Varlamov comes in and gets a 4-year deal worth right under $3 million. So that's $9 million for said player right there, or something close to it. 3.5, 3, 2.8, close to 9.5, in that ballpark. And then you look at Ilya Sorokin. Not only is he going to get paid for this year, his contract extension works towards the following year after that. So that's going to be when the big money's going to be coming in. Right now, he's going to be on his original deal that he came in back in, I believe, 2021. So in a way, I'm not mad about it. He was going to get paid no matter what. And you don't have to worry anymore, Islander fans. You got your goalie. Islander fans have their guy right now at this point in time for the next 8 years. I'm not pissed off about those deals, even though there's one roster spot remaining right now for this team. And Lou, say what you want about Lou. He comes in 2018-19, really having to deal with not only having to get a head coach, which he did in Barry before July 1st of that year, but John Tavares left. All right, what does he do? He signs veterans like Leo Komarov, trades for Matt Martin, and gives a 1-year deal with Valtteri Filppula. Okay, nobody thought of it. Nobody gave the Islanders a chance during that 2018-19 season. And they did what they had to do. They proved a lot of people wrong in the process, hosted the first round playoff series against Pittsburgh, found a way to beat Pittsburgh and sweeping them in that span. Lost to Carolina. We know what happened there. And 1920 comes around. You think they'd add a big name free agent or trade for somebody. They were in the running for Artemi Panarin. They were the favorites, but Panarin leveraged his way to the New York Rangers, took a deal. Anders Lee, because of it, gets a 7-year, $7 million deal with the New York Islanders. And really, no free agents were coming in, with the exception of Derek Brassard. But Lamoriello goes out, re-signs Brock Nelson, re-signs Jordan Eberle to, I guess you could say, team-friendly deals at that time. Season rolls along. They need a depth defenseman. They trade for Andy Green. They need his third-line center. They go out, they grab J.G. Pageau. COVID happens, stops the season. Players are injured. They come back healthy, and they find a way to make it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. I have to travel from Toronto to Edmonton. They lose to the Lightning in 6 games, kept most of the games close with the exception of game 1. And, that offseason really was crazy within itself. Islanders trade away Devon Toews for cap reasons. You could see why. And in a way, they signed Ryan Pulock, and Matthew Barzal to free agent deals, restricted free agent deals, right? They re-signed Matt Martin too, to that extent. And because of that, they bring in Sorokin, they burn up one of his years, and he's playing in that 2021 year. Islanders make it all the way back to the Eastern Conference Finals. They trade for Braden Colburn, and they trade for Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac. Okay, they do what they got to do. Oliver Wahlstrom goes down in the playoffs. Travis Zajac plays a significant role. He did. He played a significant role in that playoff. And they lost to Tampa Bay again, this time in 7 games. And we're thinking, all right, what's going to happen here? They re-sign everybody. September 1st rolls around, 2021. Nothing. Just re-signing a lot of guys. Beauvillier, Pelech, Pulock. The list goes on and on and on and on. And then, what happens after that? COVID happens for this team. 13-game road trip starts off the year before they move in the UBS Arena. Doesn't end up right for them. It doesn't. Really, no trades. During the year, they signed Clutterbuck and Parise. The following year, during the offseason 2022, as a fan being at the Lou Lamoriello meet and greet, right in front of all the fans, Shannon Hogan was doing it. He basically says hockey trades are going to be made. Hockey moves are going to be made. Okay. First round draft pick of that draft goes to Montreal for Alexander Romanov. Okay. What else? What else is there? They run it back with the squad. Matthew Barzal resigns with an 8-year deal. Looks like they're playing well, but they're down in a couple games. They come back and come from behind fashion, but it's the same old story. They can't really score. Injuries happen, and because of that, they just can't do it. They bring in Bo Horvat at the end of January of this year. They bring in Pierre Engvall, and they fight their way back. They fight their way back into the playoffs. I know people are going to talk about, they've made it to the playoffs. Barely. Did you not watch the games in January? Did you not see this team play in January? They fought tooth and nail. They used up all their energy. Bo Horvat coming from Vancouver to New York. having to basically play hard every game, with the exception of scoring goals. He was used a lot at that point in time. And here we are. They lost to Carolina in the first round. All those games could have gone either way. And what has Lou Lamoriello done? He's re-signed just about everybody here. Eberle going to the Kraken, obviously. Andrew Ladd getting traded. Josh Bailey. We'll get into Josh Bailey in a minute. But it's like, guys, what are we doing? This guy was literally handed a team that basically nobody wanted to come to. And then when the young guys saw, oh, the fans are great. Everything's great about this team. We have a great culture here. We love each other. What could possibly go wrong? They made it to the playoffs 4 years out of 5. Out of the 5 years. To me, that's a success. Making it to the playoffs 4 out of 5 years. They find a way. They go out. They do what they got to do. It sucks that they couldn't really acquire that goal scorer. But there's a lot of rumors going around with Alex DeBrincat. I don't know what's going to happen. But what I do know, after seeing not only Josh Bailey getting traded, again, I'll get into him in a minute, but I just want to end it with this. Having to see the re-signings of 4 players all getting thrown out on July 1st shows me that Lou Lamoriello wants to add and wants to be serious with this team. Now, we don't know a whole lot of Lou Lamoriello because he is what he is. He's his own character in that regard. He is his own character. So, while I sit here on this Monday, what's going to happen within the next 24 to 48 hours, I have no idea. But what I do know is that after seeing and hearing his press conference, we hear about hockey moves and trying to clear up some cap space. In a way, this is probably going to happen. But again, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Is DeBrincat coming here? Is guy like Winnipeg's situation? What's going to happen up there with Winnipeg? Are they going to trade away a guy like Kyle Connor? Are they going to trade away Nikolai Ehlers to that extent? I don't know. Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler, whatever happened with them happens with them. I know Scheifele, I believe, went over to the Rangers, I believe, and you got Jonathan Quick going over to the Rangers too. 2 veteran pieces. But having said all this right now, as I'm pulling up who the Rangers actually signed, so they signed Tyler Pitlick, Riley Nash, Nick Bonino, and Alex Bazzili. Yeah, so they signed Blake Wheeler too. So, okay. So Mark Scheifele wasn't part of that deal, but Blake Wheeler was that 1-year deal. Okay, so they find the way. They found a way to get those bottom 6 guys in there. And the Islanders, for years, they've always been filled with bottom 6 guys and young, promising prospects over the course of the past 5 years. But when I hear guys like Matt Barzal saying, oh, we know we can be better, and we know that we can be a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference and in the Metropolitan Division. When I hear Bo Horvat saying, I know I can be better, given his track record with Vancouver. Okay. Seeing Anders Lee as captain, seeing Kyle Palmieri, the energy that he brings, and seeing the defensive 6 that the Islanders have, along with Ilya Sorokin and Semyon Varlamov here. Nobody's got to really worry about a contract, about where they're going to play. The fan base now understands that it is do or die at this point for this team. And they need a goal scorer. That's the one thing that they've been missing out. They get the guy in Bo Horvat that can win the faceoffs as a first-line centerman, a big body, can skate, can do it all in that sense. Couldn't score at the end, but it was a lot that was put on his plate in order to bring the Islanders back in. But it should be an interesting time for the next couple of days to see what happens with DeBrincat, the Islanders, the Jets situation. It all ties itself in. We're all going to see what happens there. Chiarucci with you here on the On the Board Sports Podcast. Rate, review, subscribe, like this content, please. Anything helps out here for not only the show, but just the confidence here for yours truly. Anyway, to get back to the Islanders right now, Josh Bailey. That's his game-worn jersey back from 2009, 2010. And I got to say this, man. The guy, 15 years, one of the more loyal athletes and one of the more professional athletes, not only in New York sports, but just in sports in general. Nobody gives him talk. Understandable. You look at his stat line, you say, this guy lasted here for 15 years. He did. And he played a lot of games here. Third in assists, I think fourth in games played. I think I mentioned it on a prior podcast episode. Chris Botta put it out there. But he's in the top 10 in some of these categories. And you look at it and you say to yourself, well, the Islanders weren't that good after the dynasty in the mid to late 90s and then in the early 2000s. Not the early 2000s, the late 2000s. I'm taking a sip of nice cold Poland spring water. But the thing that I have with Bales, and it's not a personal gripe, it's actually a good gripe, it's a good thing, is the fact that he could have gone anywhere. He signed with the Islanders. He did what he had to do. And this was a contract that was signed with Garth Snow. So, in a way, it is what it is. But he did everything. He did everything that was asked for him. He did what he had to do. And he played well. He played well. Barry, he found his way with Barry, no doubt. Won the A and was a solid vet and a big playoff performer. People want to rag on him for Game 7 against Tampa. Just basically going up trying to defend or trying to lay the body. Meanwhile, there was another Islander defender on him, on the Tampa Bay player. And turns out to be a 1-0 game. But regardless or not, Josh Bailey is going to get his plaque in the Islander Hall of Fame. And when you look at the people that are in the Islander Hall of Fame right now, outside of the dynasty teams, you look at a guy like Patrick Flatley. You look at a guy like Pat LaFontaine, one of the greatest hockey players coming out of America, right? And he had a significant role with the Islanders. Pat LaFontaine did. And then you look at, just other players that have come in along that time frame. And you say to yourself, Josh Bailey was here for 15 years. That's pretty incredible. To stay with one franchise and just to do what he was asked to do. Top 10 pick, I understand all that stuff. I get why people don't like him as a player, but as a human being, this guy is the man. The guy is the absolute man. So, yeah, there's that. But he gets traded over to Chicago. Chicago buys him out. And Chicago gets a second-round pick in 2026, but you can't worry about that now. The Islanders don't have to deal with Bailey and his contract fiasco and whether or not he's going to play or not on this team. I hope wherever he goes for the next couple of years, depending on where he plays at, he plays well. And he does what he has to do. And maybe somewhere along the way, the opposing fan bases outside the Islander fan, can sing the "Hey, Josh Bailey, ooh, ah, I wanna know, will you score a goal?" And that can happen. He can still pass it. If you put pressure on him, he's going to turn the puck over. But if he can go out there and play and just be an assist man, that's it. That's all you got to be. Pat LaFontaine said it the best. I remember I had a conversation with him during one of the Islander games last year for about a couple minutes, and he said, "Listen, when you're younger, you score the goals. When you get older, you pass the puck, and you assist for those goals, and that's what you do." And Bailey right now, he's been a playmaker all of his career, and he's been a guy that can go out there and score. He doesn't really score, but when he does, it's in pretty important times. But some great moments he had. You look at Game 1 to the Island against Pittsburgh in 2019. You look at Game 5, 2021 against Pittsburgh in the first round. Jari passing it right on his tape. And, the guy's been a good penalty killer. He's been a good player. But he's been an Islander that really, in the whole New York landscape of things, just is underrated at that point in time. And a guy that, if you look back on his career, should be talked about just a little bit more. But Josh Bailey, man, one of the more underrated Islanders over the past 20 years. So, best of luck to Bales on wherever he goes to. There's rumors that he might be going to Toronto. We'll find out. He's from Ontario, but he says Long Island is his home. So, there's that. And, Bailey, just like I said, nice guy, chill dude, and I wish him nothing but the best. And when he comes back here, whether or not it's for an opposing game or if it's for like an Islanders alumni night, he's going to be welcomed back with open arms. He will be. There's not going to be on that night. He's not going to get hatred. So I think Bales is one of the more underappreciated Islanders, in my opinion. But again, what do I know? All right, Chiarucci with you here on the On the Board Sports Podcast. Let's let's talk about New York baseball as a whole. The Mets. We'll start off here with the Mets, and then we'll talk about the Yankees. We'll end the show with the Yankees. The Mets right now are winners of 2 in a row. They're still a couple of games under 500, but it's like the guys on the 7 line, specifically Darren, that tweets out and says that if you're not mathematically eliminated from postseason contention, you are still in it. And to take 2 out of 3 from San Francisco this weekend after losing 3 out of 4, and listen, losing 3 out of 4 to Milwaukee, you find a way to go out there, you battle. They were up in 2 of the Milwaukee games that they lost. And they were close tooth and nail on the Wednesday game that they played up against the Brewers. That series could have gone either way. But for me, looking at it, you are where you are right now. You have no fault of your own. You had no fault of your own at that point in time. Met fans should be pissed off, and their bullpen is one of the worst in the league, no doubt. They're scoring runs. And for the people out there that are saying that it's over, it's not over yet. Until you're mathematically eliminated, and unless you win 2 out of 3 in these next 2 series coming up by the trade deadline, you still have a shot of making it. Now, are there long-term implications for this? Of course. They don't have the pitching staff, any young guys coming up. They don't really have a bullpen piece either outside of Edwin Diaz coming back. So if they win, these next 2 series in Arizona and in San Diego, they're still in it. I don't care about the NL East if you're a Met fan. If you're a Met fan, you should not care about the NL East getting in. That is being hands down being run away with by the Atlanta Braves. But it's absolutely crazy to say and to think that, you know, this is over. Again, I know what I tweeted the other night saying that it's over. And I've been preaching on here for weeks saying, you know, you see what happens. You play the games. You win a couple of series here. Maybe you go on a nice winning streak here, and you're back at it. You're back at it at 500 going into the All-Star break. But again, it's absolutely a pivotal time right now to go out there and win. And you have to go up against two teams now that are fighting neck and neck with you. One being the Padres coming up. They've been one of the biggest disappointments outside of the Mets in the National League, no doubt. And then you look at the Arizona Diamondbacks. Total 180 regarding, and excuse my hair, total 180 regarding where they are. Big surprise in a good way. So it's really something to see, and it's really a sight to behold here. Even though the Mets are 8 games out, win 2 out of 3 against the Diamondbacks and the Padres, you're back in it. Get a bullpen piece at the trade deadline if you're still in it. And if you're not, you sell. That's the best thing I could say is sell. If you lose these next 2 series coming up to Arizona and San Diego going into the All-Star break. And then we got to talk about the Steve Cohen press conference that he had, because that guy gets it. He understands it. He takes things day by day. And he ain't going to give up. He's a fan, but also he owns the club. He's a big money guy. All right. And then I hear the talking heads, well, you know, he's not taking it as seriously because he's a fan, and, you know, he owns his business and all this stuff that goes on. And it's like, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's a billionaire for a reason. He bought the team for a reason. And he wants to see, you know, what this team can do. After watching that press conference, he's taking everything one day at a time. And for me, watching that, you have to. Because you can go on a streak. Look at the Cincinnati Reds, right? Back in the beginning of May. Late April, beginning of May. They were floundering. And they bring up Ellie De La Cruz. Joey Votto comes back. And they went on, an 11-game, 12-game winning streak at that point in time. And they basically put themselves in that NL Central lead. And you look at teams like the Brewers really, their offense, it is what it is. They're not really that good. You look at what's going on with the Pirates. They've been really bad in this past stretch of games. You know, they've lost 2 in a row, but they're 5-5, and they're 6.5 up. They're 6.5 back of the wild card, the final wild card. But having said all this right now, these are the teams that you want to go up against. You want to go up against Arizona. You want to go up against San Diego to gain ground back in that NL wild card. So for anybody out there saying, oh, this team is out, they're done, put a fork in them, until you're mathematically eliminated, you're not out of anything. As bad as they might look right now, and their bullpen might look bad, they're not out of it. And you're getting back Pete Alonso, Brett Beatty's playing well. You got this kid Alvarez playing out of his mind, playing a catcher, although he came back down to earth a little bit. And you're getting a guy like McNeil back trying to figure out his swing, trying to go to the opposite field. You got Marte trying to find his way, Brandon Nimmo trying to find his way, being one of the better Mets. Season's not over yet until you're mathematically out of it. So, I'm going to contradict what I said online It ain't over yet. All right, Chiarucci with you here on the On the Board Sports podcast. And finally, we got to end with the Yankees. And the Yankees right now, where they are in the wild card standings, it's going to be back and forth until, some teams go up against each other, right? Coming down the stretch. And the Yankees, they're playing without Aaron Judge. Their last 10 games have been 500, 5-5. And this past week has been nothing short of incredible, right? I understand that you lost 2 out of 3 to St. Louis. I'm not surprised about that, given where this Yankee lineup is right now at this point in time. And this homestand, like I said, with the Mets going out on the road to go into Arizona and San Diego, for the Yankees right now, it is downright crucial to take 3 out of 4 or split the series against the Baltimore Orioles coming up. They play 4 in the Bronx and 3 against the Cubs. The Cubs fighting for a wild card spot as well. So if you're a Met fan this week, you should be rooting for the Yankees to sweep the Cubs, or if not, take 2 out of 3 against Chicago. And this is a Chicago team. Last year they were bad. This year they're still mathematically in that NL Central. And anybody can take that NL Central. I think with the standings, with the way how it is right now, I'm looking at it, they're like 4 games. Some crazy number like that. All right, so 7 games out. Okay, maybe a little crazy. Maybe I'm asking for a lot. But the bottom line is right now, if the Yankees can take 2 out of 3 against Chicago and find a way to do that, I think they're golden. And you can take 3 out of 4 or split against Baltimore, a very good Baltimore Orioles team. By all means, do it. But this is a team without Aaron Judge. Their pitching staff is just finding ways to keep some of these games close. Severino the other night did not look good against the St. Louis Cardinals, giving up the amount of runs that he gave up. And we haven't even mentioned about Domingo Germán perfect game. I mean, talk about a crazy story. The guy tossed the 24th game, 25th if you count Armando Galarraga's perfect game bid. But he tossed the 24th game ever pitched. Perfect game. Perfect. Really unbelievable what's going on. And, the story of him having the Tommy John surgery a couple of years back, him beating up his wife in front of his teammates at the CC Sabathia charity dinner or whatever it was. Being banned with the sticky stuff, getting a 10-game suspension, I believe, not once, but twice, I believe, right? His uncle passed away, and he gave up 15 runs in a 2-game stretch prior to him pitching the perfect game. And he did it against Oakland, but hey, you know what? You got to give the guy some credit. He did it. He did it at the end of the day. And I'm not condoning the abuser stuff. You are what you are. But people are entitled to second chances. The stories that I've been reading is the fact that the same woman that he beat up still married and they have a kid together. They're working on each other's relationship and love out of it. And in a way that's remarkable, but at that same point in time, he still did it. And you see the trolls that are out there on the internet voicing their opinion on the matter when he did something absolutely amazing. But it is what it is. If the Yankees lose these series coming up to Baltimore, Chicago, they go into the All-Star break, and there's some interest there regarding Domingo Germán and with another team, you take that deal. You do that deal 100%. But from what I've seen thus far out of Domingo Germán, it has been absolutely downright an incredible story, to say the very least. To see him throw that perfect game, happy for him, happy for the retribution story in that sense. But the resume is still there. And say what you want about, you know, the second chance people, or the people that, oh, he's a wife beater, all that stuff. The resume is still there. So it's, I don't condone the wife beating. I don't condone any of that stuff, to hit a woman at all or anything like that. But he did it. He's working his way back. And in a way, he got it together for that one night anyway. So kudos to him. And yeah, for the Yankees, it's, you come back, you play Baltimore now. To fast forward back to where we are right now on Monday morning, you got to play Baltimore 4 times this week. You got to go up against Chicago now, coming up this weekend. And the Home Run Derby, it is where it is right now, So, and the All-Star game coming up too, it is where it is. So, for both New York teams, you got to win these series coming up in order to be good where you are. And the Yankees have holes. Their lineup has to figure out where, just to get on base and just drive runners home, no doubt. For the Mets, it's the opposite. Their bullpen has to be better. Their pitching staff has been outside of 2 pitchers. They've been good the past couple games. Every game for them has been right in the balance at that point in time. They just can't find it. They can't close these games out. And losing out on Edwin Diaz hurts in that stretch. And they are one of the oldest teams in the league. But having said this right now, you're not out of it by any stretch until you're mathematically eliminated. And that goes with the Yankees too. Even though they are where they are. Until you're mathematically eliminated, you're not out of it. So, Chiarucci with you here on the On the Board Sports Podcast. Guys, I'm going to get going. Enjoy your 4th of July coming up. And, enjoy the weather that's coming up here. And, if the Brinket comes here, or, if there's any big time buzz with the Islanders, you're going to hear it from me first. So thank you again. Really appreciate it. And I'll talk to you guys soon. All right. Enjoy the rest of your week. Peace out. Stay safe out there wherever you may be. And God bless.